The question is a good one. Is death real? Real from the perspective of when we die, we actually die. Hi, I'm David Essel, 43 years now, counselor, minister, best-selling author, and more, master life coach. Uh, it's a great question. It's something that's come into my life more and more. I've been doing more videos on the dying of my mom and dad, the visiting after they passed over. My mom and dad have visited me several times, and I still have to make up some videos and do some videos on their visits. I haven't had a chance to. But is death real to you? Is it real to me? Prior to going through this experience, I've worked with so many families as they've lost a mom, a dad, a brother, a sister, and we talk about death all the time. As a minister, I've overseen funerals. I don't know how many over the last 20 plus years. I've done an incredible amount of end of life presentations, celebration of life presentations. And so I've been mired in the world of death and dying for a very long time. But the actual death and dying of my mom and dad has opened up my mind to a whole new perspective. And I've come to understand what Mother Teresa talks about in her books, what the Dalai Lama talks about in his books, is that death is not real. And when we think about death not being real, what does that mean? The person's in the grave, David. What does that mean? What are you saying? Death isn't real. I was there when they took their last breath and held their hands, and it crushed my spirit. What do you mean they're not dead? And I can understand that kind of pushback to these statements, right? But what Mother Teresa says in many of her books is that the process of dying is not an ending. It's a passageway to another existence. The Dalai Lama, coming from a totally different religion, Buddhism, says the identical thing. There is no such thing as the ending of life. We carry on in another realm. Or in Buddhism, we may come back as a reincarnated being or whatever it might be, right? But it isn't the end. And I have to tell you that I'm more grounded in this belief system now than ever before because of the visitation of my parents after they died. That tells me that death isn't real, that the cycle of life hasn't ended. I mean, they're coming to me profoundly, not just in voices in my head, but in vision. I mean, my mom, for God's sake, was right in front of me, speaking with me several times. She's visited me at night and stood at the side of my bed. I mean, if death was real, if it was the end of it, how would we talk about these visitations from people who have died? They're still living. They're still there. I think one of the biggest differences, too, that's happened to me is that I've created gateways to connect with my mom and dad so that they are more real. And what are those gateways? I write to them every night in my journal. I talk to them every morning in the courtyard. And at my house, I have a courtyard outdoors. I sit with my coffee. I do my meditation, my prayers, and I talk to my mom and dad. I ask for guidance, and they give me guidance. I'll sit there and go, Dad, not really quite sure what to do with the situation. It's a tough one. I mean, if you could help me out, that'd be great. And maybe a half an hour later, it might be 5 hours later, all of a sudden this thought will come in my head. I'll go, oh my God, that's my dad talking. That's not something I would come up with. That's pure Ed Essel, or I'll talk about my mom and all of a sudden a thought will come in about my mom responding to my question. And I'll go, that's not me. That's not my voice. That's my mom talking to me, for God's sake. So I know that there's a lot of people that won't believe what I'm going to say or won't believe what I'm saying in this, but my thought process about death prior to my parents dying was that, yeah, we die, we go to heaven, and some people may get visitations, but it's only for a short period of time. This is what I was taught growing into this whole world of ministry and spirituality, is that once they pass over, they have so many days they can come back and forth and then it's over. Well, I found that not to be true. My mom died over a year and 3 months ago, and she's still with me all the time. My dad 3 months ago, and he's with me all the time. So I now know that there is no such thing as the end in my belief system anyway, that there's a continuation. Some people call it the continuation day, right? Or the continuation life, is that they carry on and they're still vibrant and they're still in our existence if we want them to be. Now, maybe you didn't have a good relationship with your mom and dad in their past and you don't want them in your life. And that's nothing I would ever interfere with. But for anyone else that had a decent relationship or a good relationship with someone that's passed over, I want you to believe, or at least to open your mind. You don't have to believe this, but open your mind to the fact that it may not be the end. that I truly believe that life carries on as vibrantly after the person has left this planet as if they were here. Just my belief system, right? And because of that belief system, it will allow me, I hope, that when I get close to that phase in my life, which could be tomorrow or it could be in 40, 50 years, that I will have the strength of my father who just said, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. And I've done everything here I needed to do, and I'm ready to go. It reminds me of a story of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, one of my mentors. And as the story goes, and he was ready to pass on, he didn't die of an incredible illness or an accident. He walked up to his secretary and said, I'm going to go over and sit in the corner, and it's time for me to leave. And he went over and he sat in the corner and he left this life, but he carries on. He's with me as well. If you want to comment on this, please comment. If you agree, I would love to hear your comments. If you disagree, I would love to hear your comments. I'm not going to delete something unless it's a personal attack, of course. But if you have a different belief, please post it below, okay? Join our YouTube channel here. We're continuing to put out more products all the time. As you look below the video, you see we have a free program on helping Americans heal. It's absolutely free. Our whole purpose, we're giving away 500,000 online programs to help people heal. And the very first thing you're going to get is our book on positive thinking, no charge for anything. And then a little further down, if you want to be part of the solution in the crazy mental health world that we're all struggling with, become a certified mental health and master life coach. This certification, I'm the only one that teaches it. And we have a live one coming up in June, and then a live meeting in person. And then we have one on Zoom coming up in July, and all of that's below. Okay. I hope that we can start to alter our approach to death and our beliefs about death, and maybe even get to a point like my father who welcomed it. Just a thought. Sending you love. I'm David Essel.